Today's episode is brought to you by HERdacity. HERdacity is a nonprofit inspiring confidence in women to achieve their professional goals. For resources, networking opportunities, and a strong community of women, visit HERdacity.org to learn more.
Welcome to HERdacious, a podcast for audacious women. Salutations all! I'm Lorelei and this is HERdacious, and I am very pleased you were able to join us today. Joining me on the show today, I have attorney, change management and organizational development professional, and nonprofit strategy consultant, Miss Tara Levy. Hello, Tara.
Hello, Lorelei.
Nice to have you here today, Tara.
I'm so happy to be here with you, virtually.
Virtually, yes. So today we're going to be talking with Tara about trying to find peace of mind during the chaos of COVID. It is a unique and challenging time for many of us, and we wanted to talk with a change management professional to discuss how we can go about adjusting, organizing, adapting, and chilling out during COVID. So Tara, how can we start to adapt to these new realities and find some peace of mind during quarantine?
Yes, I'm happy to join you here today, Lorelei. This is an exciting thing to tackle. And as we're all in different positions, in different setups with home quarantine and circumstances, we're all navigating something different from each other. But at the same time, this is one of the first moments in a lot of our lives where we're all navigating the same thing. And I think that gives us some interesting opportunities to think about how we manage this together as a society.
All right. So where do we want to start? Do we want to talk about how we manage this as a society, or maybe specific mindset adjustments?
I think I would love to just start with is thinking about the normalization of this and what we're all going through as a society, because I think that that's the first step in the mindset shift for me, is recognizing the universality of where we are. One of the things that is interesting as I often do change management stuff is I'm helping organizations navigate a world that's changing around us in different ways. I'm helping organizations and individuals think through what do they do to respond to changing circumstances. And the circumstances are different in almost everyone's situation because we all work in such different contexts. When organizations and all of us are dealing with challenges in the pre-COVID world, we each had different things that were very specific to our sectors. So change management and strategy were really customized to the world that you were in, and even to the sector and the city or the community in different ways. This is really the first time that I can think of in my lifetime when everyone's really going through the same thing and it's happening worldwide. And because we are all experiencing COVID, we are all experiencing stay at home. We are all experiencing what it's like to deal with the essential services. We are all dealing with making sure that we understand our middle school math on logarithms and flattening the curve. Because we're all in the same situation and position right now with dealing with COVID, we are having a similar response. And so that means that the ways that we navigate this time as individuals can actually be far more community aware than the idea of self-quarantine and self-distancing might make you feel.
How has quarantine made you feel?
I have felt very at peace with quarantine. There are certainly anxieties and things that I deal with as far as not really remembering how many days ago I placed a grocery order and not knowing what's going to show up in it. We've, as a result, had days where we realized that our fridge is full of carrots, and from like the 3 different places we ordered carrots,
Right.
But because we can't eat them as quickly as I order them. But that's also because in the beginning of this, I learned quickly that you didn't get what you ordered necessarily. So I'd gotten very liberal with ordering. And so when I ordered apples and we got bananas, and when I ordered cornflakes and we got frosted flakes, I started getting really repetitive with my orders, trying to make sure we would actually get what I wanted. So at first, this was really frustrating to be wanting certain things and not getting them, and not knowing how to handle that frustration was an interesting thing. Because at first I thought, well, I should be so grateful that I've gotten anything at all, that I am fortunate enough to be able to order food, have it brought to my house, and I shouldn't be worried about whether or not Frosted Flakes replaced Corn Flakes, for example. And I also felt frustrated because I would order things thinking I was getting the ingredients to make certain meals and wouldn't be able to do them because I didn't have certain key ingredients. Or I ordered things to make sandwiches and didn't get bread. At first, it was instinctive to want to complain, but then to realize I made myself pause before I complained and thought about the fact that this whole entire system was having to adjust to this new reality, and it was not built for this.
Right.
So recognizing that this was a time for the systems that we work within and live within to have to acclimate to where we were needing them to be, that it was not appropriate for me or fair for me to get frustrated with the system. I should be grateful that it was catching up as quickly as it could. And when I made that realization, I found that I very quickly got to a place of feeling compassion and empathy for the situation. And it has, that moment in changing my attitude about grocery delivery has actually ended up shaping a lot of how I have been feeling about the entire situation.
Tara, let's talk a little bit about the idea of relinquishing some of the control over a situation that's very much out of our hands.
I think that this is something that we've been working towards as a society, maybe without recognizing it anyway.
What do you mean?
I feel like we've had this period where we've moved from work being very separate from life to work-life mixing and then work-life balance. And I think that we've even hit a point where work-life balance is really not something that is tenable for most people anymore.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know, when you realize that we're all carrying around multiple computers on us, our laptops, our phones, and other devices, and how connected we continually are. And you think about how much all of our work is incorporated in so many of our personalities, and we are brands. And for me, I have gotten very intentional about realizing that work-life balance is not something, because this is life. And I feel like that is the next evolution in our societal transitions, to not try to define work life or work and life or a balance of any sort, but just this is our life. That has been the first step for me in feeling that adjusting makes perfect sense. For example, my whole house feels like my office is also my whole house feels like my home. Being able to have both of those together, it feels like it's actually the first opportunity to truly be me as myself without having to figure out how to balance everything else. So when I'm on video calls with people, there are some people that, you know, have set up their own true office spaces, and it looks just, you know, it looks perfect with bookshelves and everything immaculate together, as though their actual work office might look.
Right.
And
I've seen those. I'm jealous.
Right? I'm jealous. And then I'm also happy just to see where they are.
Yeah.
Right. So I see people that are in those very well set up spaces. And then I see people who are having a phone call with me, and they are sitting on their couch and you can see their kid sleeping, or you hear a dog or a cat. And I feel like this is a true recognition of the fact that we are all living our lives, and that our lives don't stop so we can do work, and work doesn't stop so we can do our life. And I feel like that brings us to this recognition of hopefully a lot more understanding and empathy that we are all people. And I think that it makes the idea of working together a lot more human, because you're able to recognize that we're all in this similar position. We are all dealing with this from our couches and our kitchen tables. And because we're all doing the same thing, I feel like it is a great equalizer in helping people work together. Things that we might have otherwise hidden or not shared as openly in our workspaces and work worlds, because we weren't sure if something might be inappropriate or, you know, too sensitive. Now you have a harder time not sharing those full pieces of yourself. I think that we all become part of a larger picture about who we are as people and workers as a single thing. And to me, that's been a really fun part of this.
Nice. I love that. You have such a warm yogi sort of approach to this whole thing. It's wonderful. You're just like, everything's going to be fine. It'll all be okay, and we're all growing together. I don't know that I've run across a whole lot of people doing that, and I'm really grateful that you were able to join us today.
Thank you.
So question.
Yeah.
What kind of pitfalls can we expect to run into while our home is our whole office, and our whole office is still our home, and the dogs are still running around, and the kids aren't in school, and we still have to work?
I think that's the joy of this. And I do feel like I am this weird optimist in the middle of all of this. And I sometimes feel guilty almost when I hop on a call with someone and they say, "How are you doing?" And I say, "Great," right? And I recognize that a lot of that is my privilege, that I am able to stay at home, that I am able to manage the things here. I think one of the biggest pitfalls is feeling like you have to be the same person you were before in your work world. And I think that this is why I'm trying very hard to see and think about this universality of we're all in the same place and this is life, as opposed to you have to be in a work world moment, because I feel like the pitfall is feeling like this is just happening to you and it's your workplace that has to adapt. And the pitfall is thinking that you have to do everything the same way that you were doing it before. I think that not opening yourself up to how things can be different is where a lot of us are making mistakes. So the commitment to continue education for our kids in the same way as they might have had education in school with professional teachers and systems around them all the time feels like we are fooling ourselves if we think that that's the same standard that we should be held to. And particularly for people that have more than one kid or more than one working adult in a household, to have the different types of workplaces that we all have and the types of schools and education that kids have and daycares and other things coming together under one roof. If we think that those are all going to come together seamlessly, then we're not using all of the experience and knowledge that we have from before in the world. So a pitfall is expecting that you can do your job in the exact same way, that you can carry out your responsibilities in the exact same way, that you can work with people that you supervise or that supervise you in the exact same way, that you can network or learn or just get things done in the exact same way. For me, it's been really important to view not just myself with additional compassion, but to really view others with additional compassion and to recognize that we're all doing our best and that the vulnerability that we're all sharing is something that is a new experience. There are certainly people who vulnerability is part of their brand and you get to see things, but for most of us in a regular work day or in the regular things we go about in life, you don't get to show that as often. But when you're at your house and your pets are making noise or your kids are making noise or the Wi-Fi is doing something that it wasn't expecting to do, you know, those are the things that make us all people. And so I feel like every time someone apologizes to me for whatever their circumstance is, when we're on a video conference or just a regular phone call, I feel like those are the things that I am most grateful for and the things that I am happiest to get to see.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We have to take a quick moment to recognize our show's sponsors.
Hi, Barbie here from Moonray, husband and wife indie pop duo. If you enjoy the intro music, we invite you to listen to our debut EP, Honeymoon, streaming now on all platforms. Visit www.moonray-music.com for more.
And we're back. Thank you to our sponsors. And Tara, we're going to jump right back into it. A moment ago, you were talking to us about how we need to really change our expectations for what life is going to be like right now, for the short-term future, maybe for a little bit longer than we might have expected or wanted. So how can we go about recognizing the changes that our lives have taken during this unique time and stop comparing it to what it used to be?
So this might be counterintuitive, at least to your question, but I would say that the start is comparing it. We have an opportunity to be very intentional and to take this time that we are at home and that people are all in this same pause to think about what it was about our lives before that we really liked, and thinking about it in terms of our work, in terms of our kids' school, in terms of the way that we interacted with things, life choices that we might have made, whether it was about using reusable straws or or other things, thinking about what it was that was really good and what made you feel good and what was frustrating you. So I think that you start from that assessment, and it's not something that you do once, it's something that you do continually. And having that mindset about what was good and what you liked, you can then very carefully think about how you want to continue doing that.
In our new circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. How do you do this in the new circumstance? Whether it was that you enjoyed getting to see certain people on a regular basis, or you enjoyed a certain treat that your office you either got on the way to work or that you had at your office. There's all these things that you liked and that you can now think about, how do I do that now? Or what does it look like now? And you can give yourself those nice experiences. And you can think about the parts of your job and your life that you were less than thrilled with. And this is a great opportunity to stop doing those things.
Oh.
Partly because, right, so we've all stopped. And so now you can say, I'm not doing that thing anymore. And it gives you the opportunity here to say, that doesn't make sense. Or I know we were doing that before, but here's how we can do that now. And because folks are so busy pivoting and figuring out new ways to do things, I think that they're more receptive to getting rid of old ways of doing things and looking for new ideas.
Sounds like an excellent opportunity for us.
I think so. I don't think I would normally say that I'm the yogi that you felt I was channeling when we were starting this conversation, but I do feel the optimism that is part of life on a regular basis. And so as I go through the world as someone who tries to find the good and thinks lemonade is a spectacular way to enjoy lemons, right? And Beyonce, for what it's worth,
Yes.
right? There's only good about Beyonce. And all of our self-imposed quarantine time should include more of her. But
Accurate.
In addition to that, right, we have this opportunity to say, like, what was good, what wasn't working, and hey, let's do this. And if you are working someplace where there's always been a certain process or hierarchy or structure, and it's something that you found frustrating, this is a great opportunity to say to your colleagues, hey, I know that this is what we were doing. As we're all doing things differently now, what if we tried this? And people are so primed. They're all trying video conferencing. They're all trying different types of remote communication. There are so many people using new project management tools online in order to figure out how to communicate differently and to track things without being able to pop into someone's desk or office and check in with them, that people are primed right now to do things differently and to be receptive to a new idea. We have this great moment that we can propose changes without having to worry about insulting someone about the way it was. And so you can make these recommendations and propose things not because it was bad before, but because things are different now.
Yeah. So how do we, as a whole, as a society, as a career woman, as an individual, how do we keep moving forward with this optimism, with embracing these opportunities without the ability to really forecast what the world's going to look like? And I really can't say post-COVID, but I can say post-emergent COVID, right? So how can we start moving forward,
Right,
post-emergent COVID while adapting to these new realities? Because it seems like at this point, we're never going to really be able to go back to the way things were.
One of the things I think about is framing where we go. We are currently being so intentional as we're thinking about this. But I think one of the reasons that we feel very intentional about it is because we have all this connectivity, which is ironic because we're all quarantined, but we have this feeling of being connected because we have things like podcasts, we have social media, and we have so many different ways to actually interact and get an understanding of what other people are thinking. Anyone can write an article on Medium, right? We can all put our voices out there. And so I think that the type of shift that we are making as we go through this, we're trying to be more intentional, but we don't know yet because we're still in it. And I think that if you'd asked people in the middle of the Industrial Revolution or the American Revolution or any other major time that things shifted in history, they would not have told you that the inputs and the outputs were the exact ones that we studied in history classes. When you're living in the middle of it, you can't know where it's going precisely. There are certain folks that have positions that give us the insight and opportunity to try forecasting what's going to come. But until it actually happens, we don't know. And we're still in it. So recognizing that we are in the midst of a societal shift and that we are living a historical moment is going to be a really important mindset shift for folks because you can't know the end result because it hasn't happened. And it's different from doing math where you know how equations work. And it's different even from doing grammar when you know how to diagram a sentence and you know what all the parts are. We are living in time that continues to go and we don't know how it ends. I don't mean that apocalyptically. I mean that as optimism. And because you don't know where it's going, how it's going to end, when it's going to end, and you know that everybody is in that same position, I think that it means that you get to release the responsibility to know exactly what's going to happen next and instead make the decisions that set you and the rest of the people around in your world on the path to getting to a really great place and being part of shaping what comes next. So for me, it's weird not having a map. Not only do I have maps all over our house as different decoration points, but I am someone who likes to map things out. I plot things out. When I talk to people about ideas, I often end up drawing not well. I'm not an artist, but I love drawing out ideas and frameworks and thinking about things. And so it's actually not my instinctive way to say, well, let's see how things go without a plan. But realizing that this is something that's happening actively right now and that the decisions that you make based on your own instincts and judgment and inputs have the ability to frame what comes next feels like the most incredible thing to be part of. And, in my generation, like I know where I was when the Challenger disaster happened. I know where I was when 9/11 happened. Those are life-defining moments. And they were things that everyone experienced, but we all experienced differently. I think that because this situation with COVID right now is such a more sustained thing that we're experiencing, and we are truly in it for a while. It's not just a momentary, this is where I was when this big thing happened. Instead, it's an opportunity to change. And for me, that means kind of two real things. One is having the optimism and hope that things can be better coming out of it because we can make real intentional decisions.
Okay.
And also that I don't know how it's going to end or when it's going to end, and that's not in my control. So I need to chill, right? Like I need to relax about wondering exactly when this is going to be over, what the world is going to look like, because the inputs don't all exist right now. I have to release any concern that I have about really what the world looks like, and therefore what the work I do or the choices I make are going to look in a world that's predetermined, and instead recognize it is being determined. And all the things that we do and the way that we take the responsibility and follow the instructions and use our own good judgment about staying home and being safe and keeping others safe, those things shape how we are part of the story and what the story becomes.
Lastly, I want to ask you what kind of things that we can all do at home or in our workspaces at home to maintain our peace of mind during this evolving moment in time.
That's a great question. One of the things that I think is really helpful is to know if you're someone who deals well with structure or without structure. And if you're someone who likes structure, set a schedule. If you're someone who doesn't like structure, give yourself permission to have an unschedule, to not be scheduled all the time. And that's what's working in my household. I don't like when things are the same every day. So we have not had a day that's the same as any other yet.
Ooh, you like that variety.
My son and I have created Post-it notes with lots of ideas of things that we can do that we think could be fun. And whenever we are feeling like we need to do something different, we go to the big wall of Post-it notes and we pick one and do something fun. So we've painted rocks and we've left them out around the neighborhood for people to find little fun painted rocks with happy faces on them and rainbows.
Oh,
And yeah, and we have been practicing how to do calligraphy by using forks as our writing implements.
what?
Yeah,
Okay.
YouTube that, because you will be amazed at what you can do.
All right.
And we've been doing drawing challenges and things like that. It's not all artsy stuff. We have also put up a hammock in the yard and spent time out there just sitting. So finding some things that you can do for me, the unscheduling has been a great thing. And another thing that I think is important to do as far as maintaining peace of mind is recognizing that your mind is something that is worth keeping peace in. And so
What?
that's a really convoluted, I know. I sometimes play with words more than I should.
Okay. Well, break that down for me.
Okay. So I think that recognizing that you deserve peace of mind is truly the first step. And because there's not people necessarily around that are going to help give you that peace of mind and do that for you, because you are by yourself for all intents and purposes, it's up to you to be kind to yourself and to be kind to those that you're with and those who are serving you and that are serving others. For me, that peace of mind has come from different pieces in all of those. So being kind to myself means I'm not upset at myself when I stay up later than I thought I would, or I watch more episodes of a show than I had planned to watch. It also means that when I'm feeling like I need to do something different, I start a show. And that's okay. Because I'm on my unschedule, I have 24 hours to get something done instead of a typical work hours of whatever that would have been, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Time is more flexible, so you can be more flexible yourself and be considerate to yourself. It means that you can add extra to the tips of the folks that are doing your grocery and food deliveries if you can afford it, because being kind is not only a wonderful gesture to others, but it does in fact feel good for you to do those things. And it makes you feel like you're finding a way to be part of things. Another thing that I think has been great is finding ways to actually volunteer and help out. We're really involved with an organization called Generation Serve that helps kids volunteer. And so my son and I have written letters to medical professionals and to folks that are in the hospital. And we have made masks and we've done lots of things to feel like we are part of a bigger world, even if we can't see them all.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
It is, and it's really fun.
Anything else?
Another piece for me is recognizing that there's time. And rather than letting the time be something that is crushing, that we don't know where it goes or how long it lasts, or, oh my gosh, there's all this time to fill, instead looking at it as time to take. and time to center and to gain peace and to try to reset and to luxuriate in that time. I think that a peace of mind for me really drives from the opportunity to not be rushed and to recognize that the thing that I'm always wanting is time, and now I have it. And there's so many of us, I think, that say, I just could use more time, or can't we just do this? And the last thing I would suggest, as far as how do you achieve some peace of mind during this, is recognizing that the time is here to take. We are living in the middle of this, and we get the opportunity to pause. And that is, for me, a very comforting and reassuring thing, to slow down. And I feel like I'm living all these different quotes and Instagram filters that I'd seen for ages about taking time and enjoying things, but I didn't have time to fit them in before. And so now I'm taking time, and that feels so good.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to share this with us today.
It's a pleasure. I'm excited to hear if I actually sound like a Zen yogi when we're all done with this, because I don't think that's how anyone would normally describe me.
Well, you'll get the opportunity. So for the last part of our segment, we're going to do a Femme fact to stimulate your brains and share information about women's history and how badass we've been throughout the ages. So I'm sure you've heard about one of the most famous Egyptian rulers of all time, one Cleopatra. Her famous rule over ancient Egypt, starting at the age of 18, became so grandiose and well known that we rarely consider the plethora of other women who ruled over ancient Egypt. In fact, it was not uncommon for women to regularly grab the royal reins as Egypt's queen or pharaoh prior to Cleopatra's historic rule. From Queen Nefertiti, whose name translates to "the beautiful one has come," to Pharaoh Hatshepsut, who holds the title as the longest reigning queen of Egypt, or pharaoh, I think, at 21 years. Cleopatra herself took over the throne after both her father and her sister, Berenice IV, held power. The ability for Egyptian women to rule was common practice in ancient Egypt, where women held legal rights for equal opportunity to the throne, and evidence does suggest that female leadership created national stability. Beyond ruling, women were equal to men in many ways, with the notable exception being in occupation. Men were in the army, they ran the government, and managed farms, whereas women wove textiles, managed households, and businesses. A central value of ancient Egyptians was ma'at, or the concept of harmony and balance. Ma'at translated to all aspects of life in Egypt, especially in regard to gender roles. Consequently, women were able to marry and divorce whomever they chose without need for justification. They were able to become priestesses and clergy members, as ancient Egyptians believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses with various characteristics and powers. Unfortunately, it is worth mentioning or reminding you that the patriarchy still existed in Egypt, as it did in most other civilizations at the time and today. So to all the women out there using queen as a term of empowerment for yourselves and for your audacious lady friends, never forget that you have the power to reign supreme. Whether it's getting through that promotion at work, securing funding for your startup, being an incredible parent or caretaker, receiving the green light on your dream project, or even pulling off that impossible-looking yoga pose. You can do it, and we got a lot of historic queens to prove it. So Tara, thank you again for bringing us some peace of mind and some helpful options to balance out our lives during this unique period in time.
Thank you. Peace out.
All right. And peace out to y'all. This is the end of our episode. We are HERdacious. I am Lorelei, and I was so pleased to be with you today. If you liked our episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, go be a queen.